This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, there he is. How you feeling, Ira? You feeling good? You ready to take that train?
Ready to get on the choo-choo. I don't know if they'll let me blow the horn, but so nice up here in the Northeast when you could just take a train from point A to point B and they're all short trips. And that's one thing to keep in mind about the Heat over these years. There are no short trips other than Orlando. So many teams in the East, day of the game, an easy jaunt over to the next city. So, yeah, for a back-to-back, there could be a lot worse back-to-backs. But listening to you and Sean in your crossover talk before our Acura Pembroke Pines report, both teams yesterday just are making statements. You know what, Big O? You want your team to look their best going into the playoffs. The Panthers have made that turn already. We're seeing that. And the Heat last night, and I don't know if it's encouraging or frustrating, Big O, that they could look that good at moments and so crappy at other moments. But last night really was an example of all the possibilities of all the good that the Heat can be.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's who they are, and that's why they've been so inconsistent, because when you're not a good team, you can't do this on an every night basis. And listen, the other thing is your backs are against the wall. And they're trying to, get out of the play-in, and even though I think it's going to end tonight because I don't think the Nets, the Nets win tonight, it's over, right? If I'm correct, right?
Yes. If the Nets win either of the last two or the Heat lose either of the last two. So let's take it from this approach. The Heat can win their final two, certainly. Washington is sitting their entire starting lineup tonight because the NBA is a tankathon at the bottom. That could be a Heat W, even with Kyle Lowry sitting out, maybe Jimmy sitting out. Sunday at home against Orlando. Orlando sat most of their prime players at their start of a back-to-back last night. Let's say the Magic go off and have Cole Anthony scores 50 and they beat the Nets. Not going to happen, but let's say. Here's the problem, Big O. The Sixers are at Brooklyn on Sunday. The Sixers can determine in that game, would you rather play Brooklyn in the first round? Would you rather play Miami? After last night, I'll let you answer that question.
Yeah, that's Brooklyn. You want to play Brooklyn because Miami has the better.
I facetiously in my blog at the Sun Sentinel said yesterday, if the Sixers have to lose that game on Sunday, you're going to see a lineup like Dwayne Dedmon at point guard. I mean, they're just going to throw everything to the wind. Yeah. Doc Rivers even said after last night's game, he was glad that Philadelphia's G League team completed the best of three series in 2 games to win the G League title, so he could bring all his G League players back tonight in Atlanta. I think by the end of play tonight, Atlanta with one more win secures the number 8 seed. So we are looking next Tuesday night, Kaseya Arena, however you want to pronounce that, Heat Hawks, winner gets the Celtics in the first round of the playoffs.
Yay.
Fascinating.
Yay. Let me ask you something, Ira.
7-8, rather.
Because I think any writer that's changing their vote at this point, you should have your vote stripped.
Okay.
You either won the MVP or not already by game 80. I don't think game 81 or 82 is going to make a difference. Why the hell would you play an injury-prone player like Embiid last night?
Well, you play him last night because you're trying to secure the matchup with Brooklyn. Because if the Sixers beat the Heat last night, they know their matchup. They can plan. They can sit everyone. That's important to the Sixers, Big O. They know you don't want to play an MFer like Jimmy Butler at closing time in a playoff game. God bless Mikal Bridges and what he's done for Brooklyn. They were trying to secure a series against the Nets, wash their hands, and be done with the season. Joel Embiid did not travel to Atlanta today with the Sixers. His season is done. It was their whole finale. They wanted to give him one more
an injury, and it didn't work out for you.
No, but you don't know it doesn't work out until it doesn't work out, and they did sit him in the fourth quarter. So they did sit him at the end when it became more lopsided. So that
I know, but
everyone gets the matchup they want. Here's what's interesting. When the Heat play the Hawks, most likely on Tuesday, the winner plays the Boston Celtics, the number 7 seed. The loser goes to host a Friday game. So if the Heat lose on Tuesday, they would host the winner of Chicago-Toronto. The winner of that game gets the number 8 seed and Milwaukee in the first round. The Bucks just announced that Chris Middleton is undergoing further tests on his knee. Well, you know, Big O, over the years, Middleton's been a Heat killer.
Yeah.
Bucks without Chris Middleton, I think I would rather face than the Boston Celtics with a healthy roster. You can't manipulate the play-in game. You can't risk an all or nothing one game. We've seen what FAU did in one game, all or nothing in the tournament. You have to go for it. But it is interesting how it'll play out. I would put it this way. The Miami Heat against the Boston Celtics in the playoffs, maybe win 1 or 2. I'm being honest based on what I've seen this season. The Miami Heat against the Milwaukee Bucks without Chris Middleton, hell, they could make that a series. So there's still a little bit more in play depending on how this stuff structures out. The Heat will play to win. They won't play all their players. They'll wait for Brooklyn to lose a game. There is zero chance in hell. I would play the money line on Sunday that if the Sixers have to lose to get the Nets in the first round, I would say that Brooklyn is the safest play that day when it comes into closing day of the regular season.
Yeah, I would say so. But I mean, I kind of expect Brooklyn to seal the spot today, right? They should lock in.
It should be.
6.
I mean, again, Orlando is in like this 4-way tie with Washington, with Indiana, and with Portland for lottery seeding. They need to lose. Washington, when they play the Heat tonight, needs to lose. This is why the NBA has a lottery, so you can just dictate your spot. But it's a really crappy part of the NBA when teams are just holding out everyone and still charging full price for admission. I will tell you this, Big O. If the Heat are locked into 7 after tonight and the Hawks are locked into 8, Sunday at the Heat's Arena on Haslam Day, you're going to see a lineup of like Omar Yurtseven, Orlando Robinson, Jamal Cain, Duncan Robinson, Victor Oladipo. You will probably see at least 7 or 8 Heat rotation players not play in that game. The NBA, that's a problem with this league right now.
Oh, so it's a major problem.
Sure.
Now, the good thing is for Miami, they're going to go in as the team you don't want to play. So that's the good thing because it's actually not as bad as a season as it's been for us here because we're so spoiled as Heat fans. This is like one of the worst number 8 teams, 7, that any of these top teams ever want to face because it's like you're just going to get beat up in the first round instead of coast in the first round.
And same thing in the West if you wind up with the Lakers in the first round because the evenness in both conferences. This is going to be a year when the first round is going to be fun because the number 8s and 9s, the number 7s and 8s aren't really 7s and 8s. It's just the way the season's worked out and teams getting hot. In sports, you want 2 things. In hockey, you want the hot goalie going into the playoff. Hello, Alex Lyon. I do agree with you and Sean. I think he starts my playoff opener over Bob the way he's playing. And in basketball, you want the hot team. This Miami Heat team, from the Brooklyn game, rather the Dallas game, I understand the competition. But from the Dallas game, the Detroit game, and last night's game, they look good. Big O, if I were to send you a tape of the Heat season just showing you these last 3 games, you'd go to me, yeah, Ira, that's the team we expected all season.
Well, it kind of looked like last year's team.
Yes, it did. Like. Feisty and depth, quality depth. It's odd. I wrote about this yesterday. The Heat's first 2 players off the bench are a combined 71 years old, but it's working with Kyle Lowry. He has been great in his 10 games back in his role. Not all-star Kyle Lowry, but 6th-man Kyle Lowry. And Kevin Love, since they flipped him to the bench, he's actually been plus on defense also, drawing his charges. He has a great plus-minus coming off the bench while playing at center. So again, this is your favorite coach, mad scientist Eric Spoelstra, putting everything in the cauldron and stirring it around, and by game number 80, finding what works for his team. And that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, this kind of, not the same probably, but it does remind me of Van Gundy and the Knicks, where they had all those injuries and it was a terrible year, and then they snuck into number 8, and then they ended up in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Exactly. I mean, and again, that was a year they had a Latrell Sprewell injury, and they had to work it and go from there. Same thing with the Heat with the Kyle Lowry injury. And also the same thing with a great player turning it on. Jimmy Butler, based on since the All-Star break, is an MVP-level candidate, not for this season. He's missed 15 games, might miss game number 16 tonight. I get all that. But damn, he is such an MFer at the end of the season, isn't he, Big O?
Oh, yeah. I mean, right now, well, listen, Jimmy's been an MFer since he got here.
True.
Okay? Nobody can ever complain about the way he has played and how he has produced and the efficiency that he produces with. I mean, it's truly amazing. You just worry that he has to carry the load every single night. And to me, that's a burden that should not be on him. Bam should be unloading some of that. Tyler should be unloading more of that, off him, and they don't do enough of it night in and night out. So that's been kind of the shame, with all of this.
But the good thing is, if they win tonight, he gets Saturday, Sunday, Monday off for a big game Tuesday. If they win Tuesday, he gets Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off for an opening game against Boston on Saturday. Now the schedule opens up.
Yeah, no more back-to-backs for him.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no back-to-backs for anyone. Today's the last Heat back-to-back for the 22-23 season, playoffs included. Kyle will sit out tonight in Washington, but then they won't have that. This is when having an older roster is not the worst thing in the world in the playoffs. It kills you during the regular season when you're just struggling for breath. Tonight concludes a stretch of 3 games in 4 nights. That's kind of tough on a 37-year-old Kyle Lowry. But the Heat have pushed through. So I'm not saying they're going to win the first round of the playoffs beyond the play-in. But what I'm saying is they look like they have a better chance now than they probably did at any other point during the season. This is the right time.
What happens in Dallas?
Mark Cuban can say all that he wants to say about he wants to keep Kyrie. What he's trying to do is motivate Kyrie for the final week of the season. That doesn't work. The Luka Doncic thing is going to be fascinating. I know what you think of him. I know you're going to talk about weight control and all that. But let's face it, he was in the Western Conference Finals last year. He is among maybe the most unique offensive player in the NBA.
Probably.
Mark Cuban's going to have hard decisions to make there because I sense that Luka has that feistiness that he will push for something better. And this whole Jalen Brunson thing, when Mark Cuban opened his mouth, his father's an assistant coach on the Knicks. We never had a chance. No, you blew it because you undervalued him. I'm going to be honest. I undervalue Jalen Brunson. You and I and Kurt Heelan on our RedRecover.com Inside the Paint show, we all talked about how it was an overpay for the Knicks for Jalen Brunson.
Yes.
It wasn't an overpay. He's a guy I have on my list of most improved player candidates. He has been that good this season. So you know what? Mark Cuban blew it, but Big O, when you let talent walk out the door for nothing, that sends an awful message to the rest of your roster. I think Luka Doncic will become more and more vocal that unless he can get another star in there beyond the Kyrie Irving, put up the numbers, Dallas is in trouble. Mark Cuban blew it. I think he knows that.
Can Luka leave straight up out the door?
No. He's under contract through 2025.
Oh,
he's got in the NBA.
He's got 2 more. He's got 2 more years left on his deal. Okay.
But how soon can you become cantankerous? With the Indiana Pacers, Paul George forced his way out with 2 years left. Remember, he went to Oklahoma City, then he went to the Clippers. So it's just a matter of when does Dallas get nervous? It's really interesting. It's almost like Shark Tank.
He can eat his way out.
Again, I'm going to go the other way because I think he's the kind of player that I would trade anyone short of Jimmy Butler on this roster for, including Bam Adebayo.
Hot plate Luka.
I've seen John hot plate Williams. This is completely different, my friend. And you know what? He can hot plate all he wants and make all the hot pockets he wants if he can play offense like that. He is still a top 5 and maybe top 3 offensive player in the NBA.
Oliver Luka Miller.
See it a little bit differently than my friend there, the big Oster tag, so I'm not going to go there.
Bigger breasts, Oliver Miller or Luka Doncic?
Not for me to say. You know what? You can watch Seinfeld. You can buy your own man's ear. You go from there.
What are you working on this Sun Sentinel so folks can check you out?
Couple of things. Last season, 7 games left to go in the season. Max Strus becomes a starter. The Heat take off. This season, 5 games left in the regular season. Max Strus becomes a starter. The Heat are taking off. Could history be repeating itself? Working on that. Working on a notebook later today about how Kyle Lowry has really found himself and been very good. And as much as people hate management plans, including Orlando Alzugaray, you can see the benefit of it. And you know what? If Kyle can be this, it maybe heartens you for the future that, hey, maybe there's something there. There's a prideful player. He could make it work. His plus minus has been outstanding off the bench. His win shares have been outstanding. So story on Max Strus, how he's making it work. Kyle Lowry's making it work. It all looks good at the end of the season. Hey, bring on the play-in.
I hang out with Kyle all the time. He and I are racing around the drive-thru. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heapy. Catch
He
his
has a
work there.
Ferrari. He has a Ferrari. He's racing through faster than you, Big O.
Yeah, you can tell he's had a couple more meals than I have.
But you
Follow
have a
him on
quality
Twitter.
Acura from Pembroke Pines, so we're all in good shape there.
Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heapbeat and catch his work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, have a great weekend. Safe travels, my friend. We'll catch up next week.
Catch you on Monday for our first ever Acura Pembroke Pines NBA play-in preview. Don't miss it, folks. Thanks, Big O.
There you go. Way to go, Ira. Have a great weekend. There you go. And we are here at Acura Pembroke Pines, where you can come on out and see a great selection of brand new automobiles. The Integra was the sports car of the year here in the United States, baby. And come on out and check it out, man. We've got a bunch of great vehicles that are just taking it to the next level. So we also got a fleet of certified pre-owned vehicles and a service center led by Mike Chan and Jordan Ferber. Larry Schlossberg, Pat Nasto, Tony Stampone, great people out here taking care of you at 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 and Pines. It is Greg Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.